gathered in commitment to a planet that is whole. Works of justice, acts of kindness, bless the world and heal our souls. As our voices join together, may our song of peace resound. May we offer in abundance all the grace that we have found.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Hillsborough online worship service. My name is Lou Gadol, and I'm your worship coordinator today. I would like to thank Reverend Garcia Sampson, our speaker, Wendy Calvin, our producer, Aviva Enoch, our music coordinator, and the many wonderful singers who will be featured throughout the service. Most of all, I would like to thank all of you for joining us. We are a community of liberal, open-minded people who strive to connect with one another in love. Our spiritual home is located at 1710 Old NC 10, but our community stretches far and wide with loved ones who join us from all over the country as we engage in Sunday worship online. We are a people defined by covenant, not creed. That means that we have committed to a way of being with one another rather than a statement of belief. To that end, we support each other in spiritual growth and deepening of faith. We challenge one another to find more love both inside ourselves and in the world. And today, we welcome you with open arms to our house of worship. When Strangers Meet by Fulgence Nagijamana. When strangers meet, endless possibilities emerge. Each is called to serve something larger than the self. Today, this morning, let's light the chalice for opennesses, for willingness to grow, for rich curiosity, and for common purpose.
Gather the Spirit, harness the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this life
Blessed Are We by Andrea Hawkins Camper. Blessed are we, the heretics, the outcasts, the walkers of our own way. Blessed are we, the transgressors, the trespassers, the passers-by, the cause takers, the defiant, the compliant. Blessed are we, the friend, the stranger, the lonely, the hidden, the visible, the authentic. Blessed are we, for this is our beloved community, and this is who we are.
Ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a sharing community where our joys are celebrated, and a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. Each Sunday, we take a moment to share and reflect on the special happenings that have occurred this week in our lives. For those of you who would like to share in comments or the chat, please do, and know that everything shared aloud and felt in silence is held dearly in the hearts of this community.
Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson serves as the Executive Director of Forward Together, the Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry of North Carolina. In this role, she has the pleasure of working alongside UUs across the state to do justice work spanning racial, economic, immigrant, environmental, and electoral justice. Lisa lives in Durham with her spouse, Ree.
Good morning. Today's reading is actually a story, and it's adapted from a Swedish folktale and from Marcia Brown's retelling of the fable in her book, Stone Soup. There once was a traveler who came to a small village, tired and weary from his long journey. The traveler didn't have anything to eat and hoped that a friendly villager would be able to feed him. So he came upon a first house and knocked on the door, and he asked the woman who answered if she could spare just a small bit of food, for he had traveled a long journey and was very hungry. But the woman replied, "I'm sorry, but I have nothing to give you. You see, I can barely feed my own family." So the traveler went to another door and asked again, and the answer was the same. "I have nothing to give you." He went from door to door to door, and each time he was turned away. Undaunted, the traveler went to the village square, took a small tin cooking pot from his bag, and filled it with water. He started a fire and dropped a stone in the pot. As he boiled the water, a passing villager stopped by and asked him what he was doing, and the traveler replied, "I'm making stone soup. Would you like to join me?" And the villager said, "Yeah," and asked, "Are carrots good in stone soup?" "Sure," the traveler replied. And the villager went home and returned with carrots from his garden to add to the boiling water. Soon another curious villager came by and was invited to join them. She went home and returned with some potatoes. And a young boy passed by and soon joined the group, bringing his mother's dinner bowls from their home. In time, a crowd gathered with everyone offering their favorite ingredient: mushrooms, onions, salt, black pepper, acorn. Everyone wanted to be a part of the creation. And finally, the traveler removed the stone and declared, "The soup is ready." And the whole community joined in a feast where there had been none before.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Good morning. Well, it's really great to be here with you all today. I've only preached here one time before, and it was actually the very first week that we moved into virtual worship in March of 2020, so it's really great to be back. To share a little bit about myself, I'm still relatively new to North Carolina. I'm a lifelong New Englander, and about a year and a half ago I moved to Durham with my spouse Ree, who's now a second-year family medicine resident at Duke. And it's definitely been an adjustment for us, but we have both fallen in love with North Carolina, and we're so excited to be putting down roots here. Exactly a year ago this week, the opportunity arose for me to take over as the executive director of Forward Together. That's our UU Justice ministry here in North Carolina. And to be honest, it was not ever the ministry that I imagined for myself. But this past year has challenged me in ways that have deepened my sense of what faith is. And in short, this last year has changed me, as undoubtedly it has changed all of us. The pandemic, the election, the racial justice awakening in this country, we are now facing hard truths about our nation, and I think Adrienne Marie Brown captures this moment well by saying, "Things are not getting worse. They are getting uncovered. We must hold each other tight and continue to pull back the veil." Last spring, my friend, the Reverend Ranwa Hamemi, described this time as an altar call moment, a call to profess our UU faith, not through our words, but through our actions, to become more deeply activated in this liberating movement for justice and know deep in our bones that this is the place of spiritual transformation. And I know that many in this congregation have powerfully answered that call. I've had the pleasure for a while now to know the amazing Allison Mahaley and all the racial justice work that she is doing in our state and across our country. I recently, a couple of weeks ago, met Amy Tattersall at our weekly Friday Action Hour event and immediately felt her passion for justice work. And Lou has told me about Linda Seligman's leadership and so many others in this congregation who are giving their hearts to the work of justice. As a congregation in these difficult times, you have also continued to give generously through your Share the Plate to support the NAACP, New Hope Elementary School, Justice United, and Orange congregations in mission. And last year, you were also engaged in electoral work, working with You Can Vote and joining UUs across our state and writing over 30,000 postcards with Forward Together. You are a part of a movement of UUs across our country who reached out to over 3 million voters in 2020 as part of our UU the Vote campaign. 3 million voters. Not too shabby for a small denomination, huh? Not only did we contribute to a 75% voter participation rate in North Carolina, but we were a part of the largest voter turnout in U.S. history. And that is the power of our faith. And now here we are in a new year with new hope. But in so many ways, it's just a new day in the same America. We still exist in an unjust healthcare system, a fragile democracy. We still face the threat of white supremacy and violent extremism. We still live in a country where millions are worried about their family's next meal and the security of their housing and their exposure to this deadly virus in their frontline jobs. And there's a sense in which all that we have done in the past year has been for this chance to create deep, lasting change. I know that in so many ways we are still deeply scared and tired. I know that this community has experienced heartbreaking loss recently. And I know that you are navigating change not only in our nation, but in your lives and in the life of this congregation. But may we also remember that despite all of this, we are stronger and more resilient than we once were. Despite the dire needs in our communities, we have found bountiful generosity and resourcefulness in caring for one another and staying connected. Despite how depleted we may feel, we are called to meet this new year with a spirit of abundance and be open to the possibility that it may breathe new life into us. And that is really what our story is about this morning. In our story, the tired, hungry traveler strolls down into town in hopes that someone's going to offer him some food. But at first, the people of the village say, "I don't have anything to give you." Like so many in our culture today, they were responding from a place of fear and scarcity. Feeling like, hey, I can barely hold it together myself. I barely have enough food in the cupboards to feed my own family. But the traveler had faith. a faith in the town's collective abundance, a faith that the town actually had everything they needed to nourish one another. If only they could gather around the fire and watch the soup simmer until they themselves experience that spark of imagination and generosity. Justice movements, large and small justice movements, are like a stone soup. You don't start with a plan and all the ingredients you need. You just start. You kindle the fire and drop the stone in the water and believe that people will gather. And in being together, we spark each other's imagination and create a larger vision and offer our gifts and our capacities. Recently, I came across a wonderful diagram from the lawyer and activist Deepa Iyer, which lays out all the different roles that she believes are critical to the social change ecosystem. She says we need builders, healers, artists, and storytellers, bridge builders, frontline responders, caregivers, disruptors, and visionaries. Perhaps one of those roles naturally spoke to you. It's important that we are attuned to our gifts and offer them in the work of justice. Of course, there are lots of other skills and more specific needs to movement. Perhaps you can run Zoom tech support, or take pictures, or meeting notes, or write letters to the editor. Do you have a truck to deliver supplies? Can you write Facebook posts and coordinate old-fashioned phone trees? Most importantly, who in your congregation brings the music? Who brings the joy, the laughter? Who remembers the birthdays? And who bakes the cake? All of these things are needed in building that just, beloved community. And with that being said, we also know that we can't be rigid in our understanding of the gifts and roles that we are meant to play, because being a part of movement is a constant negotiation, a discernment that occurs in relationship to the collective. There are two important points here. The first one may seem obvious, but you have to be in close enough relationship. You have to be close enough to community partners and congregations to show up at the meetings, to be on the volunteer list, to be able to know what you have to offer. When is your moment to contribute to the soup? And second, we must be malleable and open to change. Maybe you deeply identified as a healer or a storyteller, but are called to expand your sense of all the ways in which you might live into that call based on the needs of this moment. Perhaps as a fundraiser or a social media lead. And sometimes in this work, you'll be called to go beyond your comfort and embrace a different role altogether. Maybe last spring you taught yourself how to make masks, but you'd never used a sewing machine before in your life. Or maybe you were one of those introverts who got enough courage to do phone banking for the first time last year, even though you swore you'd never do that. It's amazing how our sense of who we are can change. And that's what this work is meant to do. As we transform this world, we also transform ourselves. Friends, this is an unprecedented moment of possibility. This is our chance to not go back to normal, but to give birth to something new. To finally meet the existential threat of climate change. To tell the truth about white supremacy. To fight for a $15 minimum wage and fair electoral maps, and pandemic relief, and healthcare expansion, and immigration reform. We've got a lot of work to do. And the movement this movement in our country that I hope you can feel in your bones is a stone soup. It emerged out of a deep hunger for liberation and a belief in one another. That we can gather around the fire of community and let it spark our imagination and hear it call out our name. Hear it call for our contributions to this sacred, unfolding recipe. I want to leave you with this question. What if we actually have everything we need? What if the capacity to transform our world already exists among us and within us, and the only thing stopping us is faith in one another and faith in ourselves? In this moment when it is so tempting to be driven by fear and scarcity, let us embody a spirit of abundance and love and generosity. And when we do, the table will overflow with all that we are and all that we can be, and our faith will be deepened and our spirits transformed. And together, we will build that beloved community that we dream of. May it be so. Amen.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear.
When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice.
When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
We Shall Overcome by Reverend Jonalu Johnstone. We shall overcome when we can truly celebrate the diversity of contributions and talents offered by all people. We shall overcome hatred and prejudice and oppression. When we can truly extend our hands to one another in loving acceptance, we shall overcome the past that haunts us now. Living in peace and freedom, we shall overcome the wrongs that have happened and the debts left unpaid. Let us join together in that commitment to overcome. Let us say together, Amen, and blessed be.
To my loved ones and relations, with me in spirit every day, to neighbors I have not yet met, close to home and far away. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. My friends who make good music, sharing joy both far and wide, and to those who we depend on to teach, to heal and guide. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. To all who hear this message, to strangers and to friends, here's an embrace of music until we meet again. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Come on now, be safe, wash your hands, you mean the world to me. Be safe, wear your mask, you mean the world to me.